Hello everyone, welcome to the course of Architecture and Town Planning. In the last lecture, survey and different types of surveys were discussed. In this particular lecture, I will discuss zoning, principles and the aspects of zoning. What is zoning? The laws and regulations by which a city or town is divided into different zones such as residential, commercial, industrial, and recreational to control the incompatible land uses and prevent the misuse of land and buildings is termed as zoning. Zoning practices are widely used around the world. Zoning regulations are used by the local governments in most developed countries. Zoning focuses on two features of the planning. The first one is land allocation for a specific purpose, and the second one is controlling the height and use and construction of buildings. The proper implementation of the regulations of zoning will help in forming a safe, healthy, and beautiful town. Purposes of zoning are to establish regulations which provides locations for all specific use of land and buildings, to encourage the most appropriate use of land and to protect the value of property, to provide facilities of water supply, transportation, parks, playgrounds to each zone, to promote future growth and development of the town, to promote general welfare of the community. The zoning is important feature of the town planning. Without the laws of zoning, misuse of land occurs, which results in problems of health and hygiene, public safety and security, and environmental pollution as well. For example, commercial zone is made away from the residential zone so that the residential areas should be free from noise and road traffic. In a similar manner, industrial zone is also made away from residential zone so as the residential areas should be secured from dangerous gases and smoke pollution. In order to promote beauty, safety, health of the town, the principles of the zoning needed to be adopted are arrangement of zones, boundaries, existing towns, flexibility, and new towns. The first principle of zoning is arrangement of zones. Allocation of land into different blocks and units results in orderly development of the town. The distribution of land is made like concentric rings around the town center. The arrangement of zone is made in such a way that the town center is followed by a developed area, green area, and underdeveloped area. The growth of buildings spreads from a center in all directions is called concentric growth. These types of buildings usually form a ring and consist of residential buildings surrounded by the commercial areas. Zoning also includes provision of boundaries for different zones. The design of boundaries for different zones should be carefully made. Usually, the boundaries between two zones can be a road, railway line, river, a park, or open green space. Green belt or open green space is preferred to all others. Sometimes boundaries are broken and two zones seems to mix. This type of area is then termed as a transition zone. While zoning and planning is made for existing towns, the information regarding the existing use of land is collected. Zoning should be done in such a way so as not to disturb the ecosystem of existing town. In case of existing towns, the town is usually divided into zones by considering the predominant use in the particular areas. The principles of zoning may be rigidly enforced, but at the same time, care should be taken to observe flexibility in working out the details for zoning. For example, in order to reduce the time and cost of travel, residential areas should be near to the place of work. In the same manner, shopping centers should be allowed in residential zones. The zoning of an area should be such as to provide maximum comfort and convenience to the people of town. For designing a new town of a known population, the areas required for industries, residences, and businesses are clearly marked. Then the town is divided into suitable zones such as residential, commercial, and industrial zone. The zoning ensures the future development of the town will be in accordance with the zoning plan, which has been devised to serve the well-being of town in best possible manner. The development of town can be made by the aspects of zoning such as density zoning, height zoning, and use of zoning. The three aspects will be discussed in detail. Density zoning may be defined as the measure of intensity of land use. It is a zoning regulation that limit development by restricting the land use intensity. The greater the number of units allowed on a given area of the land, the greater the density and more intense the land use. The density of population per unit area may either be expressed as gross density or net density. Gross density is the average density of population per unit area of the residential zone, including open spaces, shops, schools, and public institutions, while the net density is defined as the average density of the population per unit area of housing and local roads only. The main purpose of density zoning is to control the overcrowding and concentration of population in some particular areas. Density zoning fixes certain standards of gross and net densities for various areas which control and prohibit the gathering of population in any particular zone. Well, the measures adopted for the effective density zoning are the number of houses per unit area is limited. The maximum size of allotment for each house is specified. The maximum height of building is specified. The front, side, and rear margins of the boundaries are specified, and the ratio of total site area to the total built up floor area is specified. The purpose of height zoning is to control the height of the buildings with due consideration to the contents of the buildings and street width or the marginal open spaces for the provision of light and ventilation. It means that the height zoning aims at supplying enough daylight to the buildings and ensure reasonable traffic movement. The restriction on the height of the buildings will depend on nature of buildings, type of zone, and the climatic conditions. Height zoning is quite important for the purpose of good livable environment with appropriate sunlight and air movement. Simultaneously, the control over the height and volume of building is also necessary for the prevention from social evils and the aesthetic beauty of the town. Proper implementation of height zoning gives advantages such as it helps to construct the buildings with uniform height, giving aesthetic appearance. It stabilizes the land values. Unnecessary intrusion of industries is avoided in residential areas. It establishes the standards in terms of light, air, and open spaces, thereby creates a healthy environment in the town. Using the regulations of zoning, our town is divided into four zones, such as residential zone, commercial zone, industrial zone, and recreational zone. The utilization of each zone according to the purpose for which it is allocated will results in provision of open spaces, privacy, and good health for the residents of the town, stabilizes the land values, and avoids encroachments of one zone upon another adjoining it. According to the regulations of zoning, the usual percentage of each zone in a town varies in a manner. 40 to 50% of the area is allocated to the residential zone, whereas commercial zone covers 2 to 5% of the total area of the town. Industrial zone, being the economic zone of the town, covers 2 to 25% of the area, while the remaining area of the town is allocated to open spaces, parks, and playgrounds. It is the important zone of town, housing a large number of people living together. This zone covers an area of 40 to 50% of the total land. The buildings developed in this zone are detached single family houses, group housing, apartments, and skyscrapers. The points to be considered while locating residential zone are it should be near to market, free from noise and smoke. Open spaces such as parks and playgrounds should be close, maintaining the privacy of residents and separation of other zones by provision of green belt or parks. Efficient communication facilities should also be available. This covers an area of 2 to 5%, having markets, warehouses, storage spaces, godowns, business offices, and banks. This zone should be located near center of traffic and roadside. This is the economic zone of town and covers 2 to 25% of the town. This zone should be located on the outskirts of the town. This zone is further divided into minor industries, light industries, medium industries, and heavy industries. Well, minor industries include dairies, bakeries, laundries. These can be located near residential zones. Light industries such as factories of glass, porcelain, and ice can be located at periphery of the town, whereas medium and heavy industries include industrial units such as sugar and cotton mills, and heavy duty industrial units. Such industries should be placed in the outskirts of the town. This zone is planned in the remaining area of the town. It usually covers 15 to 20%. This is an important zone since it provides healthy environment for the residents of the town. Generally, the various units of the recreational zone are sectored throughout the town. It mainly includes parks, playgrounds, stadiums, and community centers.